in the bottom right-hand side, our red Terran player, this is INnoVation. Taking on the blue Protoss. In the top left-hand side, from Afrika Freaks, we do have Stats. Okay, what a matchup to get us started here. First round of the Kung Fu Cup. Amazing, crazy, incredible, I know. Very excited to bring this one to you. Stats actually only just started playing in these events a week or so ago. I think in the last one he only just started playing in these for this, like, since they started back up in the end of 2019. So kind of wild for him to kind of be the victim in round one of INnoVation, perhaps. Or the victim of the Chinese seeding, I should say, more so. Because it absolutely is a thing, this whole, you know, seeding. I'm 99 at this point, like, I'm 99% certain there is a system, and they do seed players. But they also seed it so that there's actually, like, really good matches in the first round. Because you guys know when we do, like, open bracket tournaments, the first round or two, it's always like, okay, here's your, here's Billy Joe signed up, he's Diamond 2, and he's taking on Cyril. And it's like, well, believe it or not, Cyril wins, and after 4 minutes, we're already looking for a new series. The Chinese casters, they must have a system where they're like, right, we seed the bracket, but we also randomly generate 2 players, and those 2 players have to play each other, like, those 2 high seeds have to play first round, so we have action from the start. I mean, last week, INnoVation had to play Sue in the first round, and that actually turned out to be a great series. I actually casted that one at the end of the stream. We went back and got the replays, put it on YouTube, and people loved it, and it was really, really good. As you do see, the probe coming up here is going to be jumping into an assimilator. Not much going on early game. Bunker on the way from INnoVation to keep him safe, as we do see the Reaper running away off over to the side. Obviously keeping this alive to try and get some info later. We'll see the Twilight Council in over here. We've seen this a lot lately where Protoss players are starting to build their tech structure on their natural pylon because they don't want to build it here because that's when the Reaper would jump up and see it. And it's actually just that little bit less likely that you're going to get to the Twilight Council to see it, so, or the front of the natural to see it. So it's one of those weird things where it's like, isn't that the obvious place to scout? But actually it kind of isn't. I mean, maybe soon it will be because the Protoss players keep doing it. Now, if you make this Hellion and you go for like a Reaper Hellion scout together, then yes, you're probably going to see it because you will run in at the front and you will try and run by and you will end up seeing the Twilight. But like I said before, it's there up here and there's not really kind of an in-between. Like, there's not really any good place to hide the first tech structure in all reality. So it's kind of a little bit of a mind game as we do see the blink starting up. So it's going to be a nice fast blink to open up with here from Stats. We'll follow up into the robotics facility as well, so that allows him to just say, get into the blink store, because off these 2 gates, we've really seen this lately as kind of the build, the 2 gates with the blink, and then just sort of, it gives you this good mix of getting your robo pretty quick, but also having like a decent amount of pressure you can apply, as that is INnoVation. Seeing the Twilight Council, even a nice Reaper grenade to get up into the main. He wanted in, he got in, he broke down the door. As now we're going to be seeing the Reaper on the Hellion looking for a couple of probes, gets 2. And I think that's very okay for INnoVation. Apparently we don't have Game Heart on here, guys. Apologies for that. Players in these first rounds are always hosting the lobbies on their own accord. And a lot of them don't think to put Game Heart on from the very get-go. Even when like they've probably been spammed by about 10 casters for invites, they don't think, we should give them WCS Game Heart. So maybe someday. Honestly, at some point they're just going to add WCS Game Heart as like standard game stuff. Like then it's not even going to be a mod anymore. I'm pretty convinced, as we do have a Medivac with a couple of Widow Mines making its way out up this left-hand side. We'll probably be aiming to drop by in towards this mineral line and get some damage done. There's a couple of Forges from Stats will build up here as well. He just blocked his probe in, so he has to cancel and rebuild. So yeah, Stats going to go for a double Forge follow-up here. Now, INnoVation seems to be aware that these Stalkers are kind of around and waiting for him, so as INnoVation sits back at home, he's already taken a 3rd CC. He's taking up extra racks as well. I mean, with the Raven 2, this has become the bread and butter of TvP build orders as of late. But we have seen some interesting changes from the Protoss players, and while typically the Protoss players have been sitting on 3 gas and playing very gateway heavy, which is kind of what this double Forge suggests, the 3cc kind of is an answer to that, because you can play very defensively against the first 12 gateway units and build up very, the problem is, like, you just don't get much done if you go 2nd and 3rd racks against what is, like, a ton of gateway units, etc., off 3 gases. Now, the Protoss players have been responding to the faster 3CC by saying, well, if you're being greedy, you're not putting on pressure, we can be greedy and we can go straight to Storm as our opening. And so extra gases come in and so on and so forth. And that's exactly what we're going to start seeing here. So extra gas is already coming down on that third base. And I think it's just it's a good reaction to what has become the somewhat meta game of this kind of TvP. As we do see our Raven all the way through this top side. It's going to be dropping an auto turret into the main base. So again, these auto turrets, very harassment focused. We see one probe going down, tries to target another, but the pull away is good, gets a couple of them low. Maybe that means they can be two-shot when the Raven comes back in. So there is reason to target fire them. I mean, more so than the Stalkers, because let's face it, the Stalkers aren't exactly going to take more than shield damage there, right? So that's all going to regenerate. At least with the probes, you have a little bit more opportunity, as INnoVation is now going to try and sneak the Widowmine drop in. And actually, well, Stats wasn't the fastest to respond there, and it will be not so bad. One probe, he doesn't actually get another because he tries to target down Stalkers, which have blink, so that's always a little bit questionable. As you do see the third CC already down in position. INnoVation, his medevac makes it home, which is always a nice little benefit. And very soon, you know, 40 seconds or so, he's going to have Stim Combat Shield 1-1 upgrades. And INnoVation can really start getting a little bit more aggressive out on the map. So here we go with INnoVation moving out up through the center. Wow, he's just going to straight up SCV pull. I guess because he saw it's double forge, he says this is so greedy, I can just SCV pull to kill you with the first push. This is such an early SCV pull, though. Like, this is really early in the game. I mean, Stats has no information about it. His vision, he sees it now with these observers. The Stalker's coming in and trying to get a Widowmine or so. Marines and a couple of Marauds will Stim Force. There's just not even... There's more SCVs here than bio units, I'm almost convinced. I mean, there's what? Okay, I guess there's like 26 Marines here or something. Nearly, though. Force fields on that high ground. Where do you go as INnoVation? Do you just brute force the high ground? I mean, Stats just walks in more sentries, knowing the force fields over time should work. INnoVation will come back around the top side. Anti-armor missile drops, but I just don't see how you take advantage of that right now as INnoVation, because the force fields, once again, are very, very good here. I mean, stays force fielded in. The Raven comes through. Sentry's starting to take some damage. Some losses being taken now from Stats. Does he have enough? Reinforcements coming in from the top side too. This time there's no force fields, right? So this is where Stats really faces his weakness. Extra Zealots coming into play. 1-1 upgrades are done from Stats. We see the couple of Zealots going down as well. INnoVation, I think, has just read this perfectly. What a push across the map to come straight in. Take down the Immortal of Stats as well. Straight through into the natural, where there's a ton of shield batteries. Problem is you never fought with those shield batteries initially. It's kind of tough because if you give up your third base, INnoVation, yes, it's a lot of SCVs lost, but he does have, you know, 3CC to rebuild SCVs off of. So Stats just kind of fights over toward that third base using the force fields, but at some stage he had to recognize that he had to pull away, and he did not, and INnoVation will get this underway. Beautiful map for two beautiful players. Two players we love to watch. Starting in the top right-hand side, our Red Terran. Up 1-0, of course, after that SCV pull. This is INnoVation. In the bottom left-hand side, our blue Protoss player from Afrika Freaks, his Stats. Actually, kind of sad, because I really felt as though the Afrika Freaks picked up this team. Now, I know obviously they're kind of like a Korean streaming site. I really thought with the team they picked up of Statsu and Armani, they were going to get a Chinese player and play in the China Team Championship, now known as the Gold Series Team Championship. And yeah, I will just say that I am surprised. I am just surprised that we actually don't have the those guys playing in that. So the Chinese Team Championship taking a little couple of losses. Generic Greenwings citing military reasons for them not taking part as well. So it's Vino and obviously Newbie kind of dropped their team, so Dira's team is like, it's kind of a wild ride at the moment. But it should still be a great league. It does start again this Monday. Now, just a heads up that on Monday I am not here because I am here, but I'm casting the WardiTV Spring Championship Korean group. So we'll likely do Monday's China Team Championship matches on Tuesday from replays. just so you guys know what's up. Proper stats, back down to the bottom left-hand side, command center building into the natural, and we're just going to be seeing this Reaper on the way out to start. SCV scout across the map sees pretty much the same setup as before, a Reaper blockade, a pylon at the front, Nexus down, so nothing really too worrying here from INnoVation, and he will just come across the map to see what's up again. Last game has really, I think, seen the double forge, initiated INnoVation to say, cool, gonna pull the boys, gonna get these SCVs across the map, and we're just gonna go and fight this. We'll see what maybe becomes the trigger for him in this game, if he wants to do that, see what Stats does. If Stats plays double forge again, it was all of the greed, right? It's kind of like a cool in-between, because like I say, the Protoss has kind of been saying, well, if you're taking 3CC and just building up, we're just going to take all of our gases and just tech up heavily. And obviously, INnoVation sees the forges, he sees the gases, and he's like, okay, well, if you're doing that, I'm going to pull the SCVs. And so, yes, I've been building up, you know, economically initially, but then I'm just going to go for this big timing that you're going to struggle to hold on to. And it is kind of nicely done. I do just wonder what if Stats has those shield batteries not in the natural, but like on the high ground outside of the natural, like over toward the third base, just in that area in general, because it feels like that's usually where you're going to fight. Because did he just lose his Reaper to the Adept? And yeah, he's, yeah, I'm not too happy about that one. As Stats says, ooh, yummy. A Reaper kill, that's just what I wanted. A blink on the way up from the Twilight Council then, as we do have the Starport about to finish in the main base. Wood of Mines building as well as the Adept shades back out through into the center. And again, Blink just chrono boosting away here. The robotics facility dropping down on the front of the natural as well. Again, just going to be seeing another Wood of Mine here from INnoVation. Going to be popping up shortly. This Wood of Mine already coming over to the side of the base. And really just kind of a few moments of kind of calm. I mean, INnoVation this game doesn't actually go into a Hellion at all. So he doesn't actually have any scouting information. It is the exact same build so far from Stats. It is that Blink 2 gate opener. It's going to be seeing a simulator or so dropping down. So that's going to be the third gas. That's not the one that tells us much. It's the 4, 5, and 6 gases that really tell us a little bit more as to how this is going to go. We do have the Widow Mine drop then coming across far left-hand side. 3 Widow Mines inside of it, looking to come down. As you do see 2 extra racks from INnoVation finishing. Tech Labs finishing up on the faction of the Starports. There goes the racks. This is a 3 racks opener this time from INnoVation, so not a 3CC like we've seen before. So yeah, attempts to boost in there, but doesn't quite go for it just yet. Hey, what's up, XL Pinhead? How you doing? Thank you so much for the Twitch Prime sub. Much appreciated. I saw your effort of realizing you had an Amazon Prime account. You could link it, and you did. Just to subscribe. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, dude. As you do see, the Stim and Combat Shields will start up from INnoVation. It is double forge again. So, again, it's this kind of greedier kind of front for Stats' build order. And as you do see, the Observer still building up. A few probes pull away towards the third base, of course. And we just have this few Widow Mines still sat from INnoVation in between the natural and the third base. Going to be seeing the Adept from Stats moving out through to the bottom right hand side. Again, just going to be having the +1 attack upgrade still coming in, Stimpack and Combat Shields. All of this being done, some extra gateways dropping down. And just going to be seeing the Observers actually need to spread out a little bit. That Widow Mines drop still sitting strong. Model building up then. 1-1 upgrades coming through. I mean, it is just the 3 gases, so this is kind of what I was mentioning last game that Stats didn't go for. And so this is the sort of build that should just kind of sort of swarm any sort of the 3 racks timing. Fire coming out over to the left-hand side. INnoVation. Well, he's got a shield battery and a cannon to fight here as well. It's because all these gateways are about to finish up right now. This first attack is actually going to come in a few moments before charge, but he's already backed off, and I don't think he's really too eager to press the issue. He does have those Widow Mines still to try and put to use at some stage of this, so that's something to watch out for here as well. As the depth across the map is seen, not much at all. No third base being taken. So Stats should have a pretty good read on what's going on. He actually got the scout. There's 3 racks as well. So I feel like a lot of what Stats is doing is just based on what he's seen. And now he takes those extra gases saying, okay, well, you know, you've kind of passed the moment to kind of kill me. And now I'm going to get my extra gases. Now I'm going to start taking it up. And again, typically this becomes a Templar Archives. We've seen a lot of Storms as the first kind of, you know, splash damage of the game. The Stalker's going to blink in, and they will get rid of one medevac pretty quickly. The Bio will kite through and kill off these couple of Stalkers. The Zealot's getting hit by Widow Mines. Gets the Stalkers, but there's 2 more ready to go. The army at the third base wants to come in as well. I mean, Stats still has a really good defense here, right? Just a good clump of units, and in fact, Stats has a good defense everywhere. Still a couple of Stalkers on either side of this Widow Mine drop as well. Just in general, I mean, it's looking really good so far here from Stats, right? The defense has been absolutely pristine, as that's a couple of force fields dropping down. Medevac lifts a few Marines and brings them out beyond those force fields to help save them a little bit. Now some Zealots starting to drop on top of these Marines and Marauders. They're going to get cleaned up as well. And INnoVation still trying to rally out into the center here. The third CC going to be dropping down in a moment as the Zealots show up, and they are going to start making their way through, picking off a couple more of these SCVs. So more workers going down. Widow Mine is going to burrow, and that's... well, actually, SCV is going down with each of those Widow Mine shots. Big drop in the main base, though. So Stats' defense has been so good until this drop gets into the main, and that's probably a dead Nexus, right? There's so much Bio Army here. How much do you escape with, though, as INnoVation? Because obviously these Stalkers are in pretty good numbers, and they do have Blink. Widow Mine's helping against the initial Zealots, so maybe you can just fight this a little bit. You can see INnoVation was trying to make his way out to the right-hand side. That's where the Stalkers moved to try and shut down any drop play from getting out of here. So it's a Nexus kill, but it is every single unit that was in those drops, which is 4 medevacs. It's a lot of supply. Warp Prism across the map trying to get some damage done, but there seems to be units here to deal with this. Also Liberators to push the Warp Prism back. So that will be a recall, and Stats will have to just reset a little bit now. Kind of a tough one. I mean, he has got that Templar Archives down, but he's yet to really utilize it. It just finished up as this whole drop was here, so it hasn't been powered for a moment or two, and so hence the lack of a storm starting. However, I will say the upgrades from Stats 2-2 finishing shortly, that alone is kind of scary. This Widow Mine drop is still just sat here, by the way, still just chilling and waiting for its opportunity to shine and bring destruction upon the lands of probes. INnoVation continuing out through into the center of the map here. Is he trying to pull some SCVs, or are they just pulled to help fight the Zealot? Nope, he wants to pull the SCVs, okay. Just a few as we see Zealots back in the main base. They're getting some SCV kills as well. There's really not that many SCVs. He literally just pulls the SCVs off the third. And so, oh, he's going to lose a couple of Widow Mines. Well, a Widow Mine and a medevac to start. The rest of this Bio still pressing forwards. Trying to push up this ramp. Couple Zealots charging through. A good force field in position. These 2 Liberators going to get sieged up as well, as we'll see a pylon on the top side getting taken down. And INnoVation maybe try and brute force his way into this a little bit too much. I kind of like that Stats actually didn't go for Storm and has just gone for Archons. It's that nice addition to the army without having to wait for an upgrade that would be not finished at this stage. He does lose 2 of those Archons, really struggling to get them out of Liberated fire. He's actually probably mostly struggling to get rid of these Widow Mines, because if he runs into all of those, that's a problem. He has to do something about it. There's more Zealots in the main base. I like the idea of continued harassment as long as you can survive over here. And obviously right now Stats feels as though that is absolutely happening, but you've got to be careful because you're just a bad fight away from this not being a defense, and then you might want those warpins back at home to really help out. Pressing forwards here, Stats doing very well. The Immortals really chewing through the Marauders. Widow Mines going off here and there. A couple of them burrowing very far forwards. They're going to start landing on Immortals, which is going to be pretty deadly. A couple of Zealots I have no idea what those Zealots are doing. They're running everywhere you don't expect them to. Now, there's only a few Marauders left. It's not enough from INnoVation. He's down to 23 SCVs, and that is GG to give us a Game 3 here in the first round matchup between INnoVation and Stats in today's Kung Fu Cup. What platform would I suggest if you want to stream lectures and stuff? If you're live streaming, then like YouTube works. I mean anything really, right? Like I don't think anything's really better than the other one. I think like you can even like it depends how many people you're like streaming to, right? Like you could do Zoom if it's just like a smaller group. and you want them to like be able to talk back. If you just want to live stream out, then YouTube, Twitch works. You can private channel Twitch as well, so you can put like a password on it, so only people that are meant to get onto the channel can, and stuff like that. So there's, honestly, I think any platform really works. It doesn't really make much difference. Top right hand side, we're kicking this third game off of this series with the red Terran player INnoVation. As in the bottom left-hand side, our blue Protoss player from Afrika Freaks' stats going into this game 3 of the best of 3 right now. Mac's going to be finishing up in a moment or so, and just going to be seeing the SCV coming forwards. A little bit of a fight at the moment here between a couple of workers, which always happens early on in this PvT. As you see the probe just pulling back away down towards the bottom left-hand side, so a little bit of a setup here, nothing all too crazy, as we do have the probe continuing to dance around. SCVs going for a nibble here or there. And the command center dropping down on the natural expansion as well. So really standard setup here for Eternal Empire so far. What I think is really cool about this series up until this point has been that we've seen 2 games which have gone very differently, because they've been 2 different openers from the Terran player, and each time you've sort of seen both players kind of responding to the other guy. Like in the first game, INnoVation kind of responded to the fact that stats went double forge, etc., and started taking up heavily and SCV pulled. And in the second game, that was the first game. In the second game, we actually have obviously INnoVation going for a 3-rack, so stats sits on 3 gases for that little bit longer to make sure no damage is done. A really good defense initially, and eventually INnoVation's just forced to this point of being a bit too far behind and tries to attack. And again, I love the movement where stats is like, well, I'm teching up right now, I'm taking the Temple Archives, and so many people would go Storm there, but stats realizes he's got INnoVation on the ropes a little bit, so he just builds Archons, and that extra little bit of splash goes such a long way without having to wait for the High Templars to finish up, etc. Are these standard barracks and CCs? No, they're special forces command stuff, aren't they? It's usually they're a different grey, but I think they're special forces. As yeah, the Reaper going to be coming back over to the side. As you have our blink on the way up here from stats, so building that up, getting that underway. Second gateway at the front, and just going to be seeing this Reaper jumping on toward the watchtower for the moment. So just going to be taking that as our robotics facility will be starting up on the natural. Banshee and Cloak on the way here from INnoVation, so that's going to be coming through as well. And again, the robotics facility is going to be finishing in the next few moments, as we do have a Nexus down on the 3rd base as well. So that will be finishing up. And there's again a couple of extra probes still just on the way out, as we do have our bunker from INnoVation setting up on the natural expansion. These few Marines from INnoVation going to be hanging around over to the side as well. And again, Banshee, Siege Tank, etc. A very different setup from INnoVation altogether. So from what's been kind of very passive 1-1-1 openings with Widow Mine drops and so on, this is really like teching heavily off of the 1-1-1. And really, you know, the Cloaked Banshee's looking to deal some damage. Definitely gives you some potential aggressive pushes, although on Eternal Empire, I wouldn't imagine that we're going to be doing anything along those lines. I think we're just going to be seeing a very regular setup here from INnoVation, where he's just going to Banshee harass, and then move from there in towards the extra racks, etc., and just play a very regular game. It's tough to push across the map on Eternal Empire. It's a large map, unless these Banshees are very successful. And if the Banshees can stay alive long enough, what can also happen is that you're able to pull the army over to the natural still, and then maybe you can get a position on the 3rd base. So that's what you can watch out for. But I mean, there's already an Observer here, there's already Stalkers. These Banshees are going to do nothing to really slow this down like a major amount. In fact, the first Banshee is just going to survive, but such low HP. INnoVation will push onto the map, so the extra Siege Tank may be a sign of that as well, just an extra bit of reinforcement to this. Let's see how well stats can cope with an aggressive push coming across to the bottom left-hand side. It's going to be seeing a shield battery dropping down, the other Stalker or 2 warping in as well from stats. And we do have the Marines and a tank, the Banshee. All of this wanting to press forwards. Tank will siege up, and the Stalker's blinking backwards. And again, doing a decent job of this right now is just going to be seeing the SCVs Trying to repair up a Banshee or two. Seeing what's going on. INnoVation's just sitting tight kind of down the ramp and waiting to kind of push up into this. 1-1 upgrades charge on the way in, as we do see the rest of this bio will be pressing forwards very soon. I mean, this is the thing from stats. His setup is very just strong and effective against pushes like this in general. I mean, especially against the Banshees early game. As he catches one of the siege tanks, makes this a very strong defense. Now, 2 Banshees went off over the left-hand side. With the blink, he's actually going to be able to push this back. INnoVation maybe stuck around just a bit too long. Does he have any way to get out of here? He's going to siege up the other tank, which is going to get blinked on right away. He's going to try and fight. I mean, Banshee showing up. He'll try and target down the Observer so the Banshee can continue to fight here. And the Banshee will be what turns this around. There's 2 Banshees in the main at the same time. So while INnoVation's losing army, it is stats with pretty much everything across the map, meaning that he doesn't have much to really defend these Banshees until he recalls home. So a little bit of chaos across the board there. 8 probes down, but it's still a ton of Terran units that fell as well. I mean, important Terran units as well now, right? This Banshee is on its own, so that's not going to do too much else. There's only 1 siege tank left as well, and that's a lot of your gas in the early game that's now gone. As you get a 3cc behind this, you're actually even on workers, so that's not bad. But you did lose a lot of army in the initial setup here as INnoVation, and that is something to be concerned about, as we do have Stalkers, an Immortal, and its Sentry, all of this pushing up this left-hand side of the map here. Again, Templar Archives going to be finishing in a moment or two. The charge about to be done. There's 1-1 upgrades on the Forges, also not far from finishing at all. As we have my mouse acting itself. Stalkers blink up for a Banshee shot. Now, this is stats just posturing a little bit. He is at the stage of this game where he's got the extra gases so tech can come in, and he will choose Storm because this game he's the aggressor. He's dictating the pace, so he doesn't need to just build Archons to survive a push. He has the time to get into Storm, right? So that's what he will do, and right now he might just have the numbers to break INnoVation as well. Pre-combat shields, pre-1-1. Stats has a lot of advantages in this fight. The INnoVation will have to go running with all of these SCVs, couple Widow Mines, blowing up those Zealots. This army from Stats will have to turn away. But INnoVation is on the ropes all of a sudden, having a little bit of trouble. As we do see Storm again still coming through, a few extra High Templars, Zealots, the Immortal, all of this continuing to build. As we do see more High Templar gathering together on the 3rd base. This Banshee pulls out over the left-hand side, trying to find some harassment, but it's so difficult because there's shield batteries in every mineral line. And that's the issue if you go down on just 1 Banshee. You're never going to really do much with it because, especially in mineral lines, there's always shield batteries there. And way before you drain a shield battery of energy, you're going to be dealt with, you know, later in the game. Early in the game, some weird scenarios, you actually do drain a shield battery of energy or kill the shield battery off. But in in the majority of cases later in the game, not going to happen. So this is pretty tough for INnoVation. I mean, he does get back to a 3rd base, but Stats is pulling back knowing, you know, he can start up at 4th base, he can start up 2-2, and he's got Storm now on the table as well, so he's got that to utilize. 2 upgrades start from INnoVation, so in fairness across the board, he's kind of, in terms of tech, in a good spot. His upgrades are on time, he's getting a Ghost Academy ready. The problem is that, I mean, I guess that's what's missing. He's going the right way with the tech, but it's not there yet. The 2-2 is fine, but the Ghosts aren't out, and so there's no EMPs available. And Stats to stay 1 step ahead is going to already go into that next round of tech structures, which is going to be the Robo Facilities. That's going to be a dead Stalker, no blink available. They blinked forwards to kill the Marine. I mean, this is INnoVation going to have to... I mean, it is generally a pretty defensive 3 bases, but when the Storms start coming in, it's actually a very choked up 3 bases, and it becomes very difficult for those Storms to be avoided as the Terran player, especially if you're already on the tail end and running a little bit. Pretty rough as we do see the few Stalkers coming up this top side. Widow Mine gets taken down. A little bit of bio coming through. First Storm will drop. I mean, these High Templar have been around for a while, so they almost have 2 Storms each, which means you're really looking for an EMP to try and take it down. Get an EMP or so, and you can actually deny both of those Storms for a little while. Well, INnoVation will survive, and Stats will just back away towards Colossus production. So 2 Colossi at a time, and again, just as INnoVation gets an answer to the High Templar in the form of those Ghosts, he's then going to have to start hunting for an answer to Colossi. And again, also, 4th base starting to build, something that Stats already has set up. Again, the one thing I will really say is that INnoVation equal on upgrades, he is starting his 3-3 right away, not skipping a beat there. That does, feel good at least. Stats goes 3-3 as well. So often you see the Protoss player with the Forges and the Chrono Boost being, significantly ahead on all of that, but yeah, not in this scenario. So INnoVation, his army's still not bad. Against 2 Colossi, if you can get a couple of EMPs with enhanced shockwaves, which he does have, the Colossi can still be dealt with without too many Vikings, so the big issue is going to be that this is a ton of Zealots. This is like 14 Zealots that run to the 3rd base. INnoVation's going to keep going across the map. That's 30 supply of Stats that's over here in Zealots. So that's why INnoVation's going to keep going forwards, because he's essentially saying, well, your army is a quarter, got a quarter of it missing. It's at 75% value. Great EMPs on the right side to stop, but there is a storm on the ramp. Oh, INnoVation, no, 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 no. The EMPs were so good on units to stop, but then he didn't get the High Templar because they're in a prism, and then they come and drop the storms, and running up that ramp is never going to work. GG and Stats will take the series 2-1 over INnoVation here, advancing through the first round of today's Kung Fu Cup.